this thing on?
Hi guys, welcome to Skibidi Toilet Podcast, episode 46.
No, it's this. Welcome to Attack on Titan Part 3. We've done 2 of these, and now we're doing Part 3. Wow, look at that! Wow, there's 3 of them now. This is getting out of hand.
What's next? Attack on Titan Season 4?
I mean, obviously, you know, we are big fans of Attack on Titan. We talked about Season 1, and he liked it, and I really didn't. And then we talked about Season 2, and both of us kind of liked it. And now we're talking about Season 3, which was the season that... I have a weird history with this season, because when I first watched it, I didn't really... It kind of just went through me, and then over time, I got more obsessed with it as I let it sit. But I mean, this series has had this anime has had a weird release history, because season 1 came out and it was a huge hit, kind of this big popular show you might have never heard of before, and then 5 years of radio silence, just nothing, and then season 2 drops. And it really doesn't do as well as season 1. It was big, but it became a meme, but it didn't do as big. And then season 3, they split into 2 halves, parts 1 and 2. And we're going to talk about both parts 1 and 2 because I don't have a lot to say about part 1, and part 2 is really what we're here for.
I kind of feel the same. I mean, there's a lot of important stuff that happens in part 1, but part 2 is so fire.
Yeah, it's just that part 2 is that fucking good. It is up until I don't know. Attack on Titan seems to get better every season. Because I think this season's better than season 2, and obviously the next season is better than season 3. So it definitely got better every passing season.
I feel like for me, after rewatching it, I feel like I've grown to appreciate the earlier parts because of the later parts. Because to his credit, so much gets delivered on. There's so much payoff in the later seasons, and so it makes it a lot more entertaining on the rewatch. Some parts of it, though, on the first viewing are kind of dull, and I think there'll be a couple moments where we get into that here.
So there's kind of a mixed reception on season 3 overall, altogether, because it has moments that fans have been waiting for years. Finally getting to see what was in the basement, finally getting to know what made these Titans, what Eren's dad was up to, all this stuff. But the first half of it, part 1, seems to... I've seen lots of different takes on it, some good, some bad. I think it's great, but I can see why some fans were a little bit disappointed, because it's very it's focused on the political world building, on the inside of the walls, and the corruption, and this and that, the interior police, and police working against each other, and all this shit. And there's one Titan through the entire stretch, through the entire 12 episodes that this first part takes up. But it's super revolution, coup d'etat. And I even remember when I showed this to you, you were kind of confused for a bit, because you were like, where the fuck did all this come from? Because it does feel jarringly out of place given what the show has been up until now.
Yeah, it is kind of a sudden change in the series, going from when most of the enemies are the Titans to now we're fighting people, we're fighting the government, anarchy.
We're fighting mental illness.
It's what's that called, that framework? There's man versus nature, or man versus man versus society. Yeah, this is that. This is a change in that framework.
Yeah. So, in the last season, I don't know if it was, I think it was at the end of season 2, was it? Or was it this one, where they had learned that Titans were actually people. the entire
I think
time.
that I think they figured that out at the end of the second season.
Yeah, because they have the picture of
Is Connie's
they
mom.
have the picture of Connie's mom, and they hold the picture upside down, and then realize, oh shit, that's
Yeah, those are really funny moments.
um. So last season basically they found out. Last season spoiled a couple things. It spoiled their Ymir was a Titan, became a Titan. So Titans are people, and it spoiled that she was turned into a Titan by dudes in suits, in like soldier outfits with guns and stuff. There was a brief glimpse of those guys, and we never really got to see what those guys were all about until now. That wasn't actually revealed until way later in the manga, after the I'm gonna put my phone somewhere else so my mic's not picking up. That part where Ymir was like got stabbed with the thing and then kicked down the wall.
Oh yeah.
That actually was not that early in the anime. It was much later in the manga.
Oh, interesting.
After we learn about what's in the basement. So that actually risked spoiling the entire thing for so many people. But it was subtle, so it's whatever. But anyway,
yeah, it was pretty covert the way they executed it. So
I kind of want to just focus on characters for this whole stretch, because I mean the concept is simple. Things slow down a little bit. We're not focusing on Titans anymore, because now the scouts are wanted because they want to keep Eren under wraps.
Yeah, Eren and also Historia.
They chose to wait until Reiner and all the other ones retreat out of the inner walls, and we've taken care of that whole problem, to now start being like, hey, give us Eren. They choose to wait until the scouts save their ass to fuck them over. So lots of like scummy, underhanded bullshit in this one.
So what's interesting is the pastor guy that apparently knows about the Titans and the walls that they've been trying to get answers from. They find out he's been murdered, and they figured out that it was the military police that did it. And so it's kind of revealed that the higher-ups and the military, they actually know something about the world of Titans and the walls that they don't want the public to know about. And that's the part of the reason that they want Eren in Historia.
It feels like I've drawn comparisons to Naoki Urasawa's Monster, which is what parts of this feel like. Particularly like the part where they see the body and his nails have all been taken off, and then Hanji takes the soldier's hand, looks at it, and sees the bruises. That kind of like, I don't know, that gives me the feeling of like a thriller, like political drama, like Monster detective series. So
okay, I'll let you cook.
So I don't know, like basically it's the scouts versus the military police, and I kind of want to focus on this character by character. I guess the first thing, because I didn't write it in my notes, but the first thing I do want to address is what kicks off the plot, which is or what like basically got me invested, which is the introduction of Kenny the Ripper, where so Levi and the scouts, they have this plan to I guess I don't remember exactly. I think they're using Eren as bait or something in order to.
I think they were using someone else disguised as Eren.
They were using John and Armin as bait for Eren and Historia. They had Armin cross-dress and dress up as Historia, and they had John dress up as Eren. And the guys that capture them, one of them starts feeling up on Armin and sexually harassing him, like whispering in his ear and like groping him.
What did you
That's not even the most out of pocket part in this season. Because
Oh, yeah, I know what you're thinking of.
we'll get to that. That's at the end of part 1. We'll get to that. But, um, yeah, this season gets a little freaky sometimes. Isayama's a freak. He likes to eat ass and suck toes. Call him Freak Sayama. So we introduced to Kenny, and his introduction is awesome because like basically Levi they have John and Armin as bait, and then the guys take them to some shed, and then they quickly and easily subdue the guys, save their friends, and then Levi thinks he's like, this is weird. Like, this was way too easy. We got the upper hand on these guys a little too quickly, and then he finds out, oh shit, that wasn't them. And then Kenny and a bunch of other like very impressive not scouts, interior police basically capture Erwin. And the
He just domes the woman.
Yeah. Levi. I love that part because Levi basically casually confesses to this woman, like, I used to live with Kenny the Ripper, the guy that went around killing police. And then she's like, this is no time for jokes. And then she just gets shot in the head by Kenny. He's like right there.
Is really funny in retrospect because Levi just randomly like talks, hey, you know about this guy named Kenny? And then Kenny shows up.
Speak of the devil. And so what ensues is this hard fight, like, between Levi's fighting for his life, basically. This is probably the most, like, out of all the seasons, even honestly season 4, I'm not showing the chat, by the way, so any memes you post are not going to show up. This is honestly the, like, probably the most intense, like, the most amount of, like, crazy Levi moments we've gotten all show. Even season 4. Because of things that happen in season 4 that I won't go into yet. But, like, Levi definitely takes, like, center stage here. Levi and Erwin, in particular, are, like, they get more love than probably any of the main characters.
Yeah, that segment of Levi getting chased down by the military police, it's that one like sequence of animation that everybody has seen because
with him
so
jumping around, flipping, going over buildings, you know.
That's like so good. It's all the best Sakuga that Wit has done for this series.
The best part, in my opinion, was when he goes into the bar and he's like hiding under the bartender's, you know, area, and Kenny, like, they got soldiers all around the bar, and so he grabs the bartender's gun, flips it over the bar, and shoots Kenny, knocks him on his ass, and then he quickly grabs a chair, throws it out the window so that they shoot the chair, thinking it's him, and then he comes out and kills the guy, you know, like, and lots of, like, 4D chess and over-the-top, like, crazy action movie shit. Very, like, Die Hard type shit.
The best part about this segment, though, is Kenny himself. Like, Kenny is so funny, dude.
He's just a cowboy, really.
Sometimes a great character is great just because of their personality, and that's Kenny.
Yeah, he's, out of all the characters, like, he's farthest from the most deep, but presentation, he kills it. He is absolutely entertaining, and just, like, he's just evil. Like, evil for just...
kill innocence.
When you kill innocence, Lamau bottom text, yeah. And
I also love his dialogue with, like, his right hand girl. He's like on the ground, and she's like, "So have you finally died, Captain?"
Yeah, so it's very charming, very like likable. There was one point of analysis I had about the interior police. They have these weapons that are similar to the gear that the scouts use to take out the Titans, but instead of being swords, it's guns. So against the Titan, it isn't particularly useful. Armin at one point makes the point that it's really only built for killing other human beings. Specifically, other human beings who have skill in using similar gear. Because they're not going to use this to assassinate like a nobody, like a random citizen. This is for specifically killing the scouts.
Yeah, an interesting theme I think in Attack on Titan is the evolution of technology and how characters can be expressed through the technology that they use. Like you said, the military police have weapons that aren't useful for fighting Titans, but they are great for shooting people.
Yeah, and it's shooting specifically skilled people. It's not going to work on like a normal, or well, it is going to work, but it's just a lot of effort for nothing.
A little too much.
Yeah. But what's also interesting is that Armin points out that it has a weakness, which is if you attack them from behind, which correlates with the Titans, where, you know, the whole, like, there's a Titan inside of all of us, because it's a very, like, it's gear that only focuses on the front. There is no defense in the back. And that symbolism of, like, attack things from the back, hit it from the back, has been prevalent all over the series with the Titans and so on. And I also wonder if maybe there's like a kind of a because of how much betrayal was in the last two seasons, how that might also correlate with stabbing people in the back. I don't know if that plays a part in it.
There's nothing but betrayal this whole series.
Yeah. It's so funny because this season is about, like, so I guess where I can go with this is, like, Kenny, it's revealed that, like as we said, Levi lived with Kenny when he was a child, and Kenny raised him. So what, you know, beforehand, what was like a sort of surrogate dad dynamic they've now become sworn enemies. And that's something that comes up again and again, is people that used to fight alongside each other now being pinned up against each other due to conflicting ideals or whatever else.
There's another significant moment in this part that I like, which is one of Kenny's people has a gun pointed at John. And John I think John has a gun pointed at them as well, but he's not able to pull the trigger. But then Armin comes in and shoots the lady instead, and that's kind of a weighty moment, because that's Armin's first time like killing another person, not just a Titan. And it's especially sad when you realize that the military police woman, she hesitated because Jean was a child, and that was the only reason that Armin was able to shoot her.
Yeah, and it fucks with him, because like you get to see he starts like throwing up, and like it really gets to him. Of course, by season 4, he's able to kind of live with it, but it is a very, like, sad... He's never okay with it, no matter what context it happens in.
Yeah. And it kind of sets the tone for, like, the loss of innocence. It really sets the tone for the rest of the series. It's about people being forced to do really awful things in order to protect themselves and the people they care about.
And Leon wow, my brain is on Resident Evil, I'm sorry. Levi very bluntly tells him, like, you did it to save your friend, and there's no use crying over it. It was either them or us. And, you know, very much, because he's adopted this survivor's mindset, which he got from Kenny, from being raised by Kenny. I guess should we go into Kenny's, like, the past of, like, Kenny and Levi and what all happened?
I mean, I can't for why. It does kind of relate to their dynamics. I think it's a good time to talk about that.
So it's really, really sad, because Levi, it was his mom, right?
Yeah.
So
his mom
there was like a period where humanity was forced underground. Which honestly, this series doesn't go into that too much, and I kind of wish that they did, because I found the whole underground city very, very fascinating. But this is about the extent we get developing that. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, was it humanity or was it certain people being forced underground? Because I know the Ackermans had to.
I don't know. Just the point is that Levi was in this underground city, and his mom was a prostitute, and she grew sickly, and Kenny, I believe, was her brother, but that doesn't get revealed until way late, like towards the end of the segment. And she dies, and he is starving. There's no one to take care of him, and he's literally just in this room, curled up, hugging his legs, in like a fetal position, and he doesn't know what to do, because he pretty much knows he's going to be forgotten and just wither away, and just die. And I remember someone posted that, and then they posted modern day Levi, and they were like, glow up, and it's like, it's not a glow up, he was starving. So I'm not going to be able to find that tweet, but it was really funny.
Great moment.
So,
and it's interesting that that Kenny's like generally a very cold survivalist mentality, but he does seem to have that soft spot for his sister. Like when her sister insists on having the baby, he's like, "Are you crazy?" And then when she passes away, it's like he takes care of Levi out of like obligation to her.
Yeah, but he does it in his own Kenny way, where he teaches him how to survive in the underground, and he teaches him how to use a knife and all this other shit you probably should not be teaching a little kid.
Like Levi's like 10 years old mugging people with a
knife. Yeah, it was so good. And then once he's taught him everything he knows, he just dips, leaves this kid defend for himself. And from that point forward, that's what turned Levi into the hardened badass that he is. And I think that's one thing about Levi that I find very touching, is like whenever he sees Armin and Erwin and Mikasa, it's like he feels a sort of joy. Because, they get to live the life that he never really got to in his childhood. The one person that was there for him just completely abandoned him. So he's had to kind of just take the reins and do this by himself. And I think that's why he goes above and beyond for everyone.
Bro had
in the scouts.
Complexes.
Yeah, bro had baggage. But he came out on top. He came out probably one of the coolest fucking characters ever. And honestly, like, he's easily my second favorite character. My number one, we already know, and we're going to go into him here in a minute. But Levi's backstory is very, very sad. It's very, like, touching. And I really like that whole, like, I want to compare it to like Askeladd Thorfinn, but it's not really the same, because Askeladd is a much more irredeemable piece of shit than Kenny. Somehow. He's somehow Kenny, but worse. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say about the whole Kenny Levi thing. It plays a lot of importance throughout this whole stretch. Especially now that, like, repeatedly Kenny mocks him. He's like, I knew you when you were just a little kid. I taught you everything I know, or and, he jabs at him.
Like, you haven't grown one bit.
Yeah, he makes fun of his height. That's one of my favorite
Kenny's only
running jokes.
Being silly and murder.
Yeah, and, espionage.
The other I think... Looking at the outline we've got, the other important character here is Historia. So we get to learn a lot more about Historia's background and why exactly she was kicked out of the family.
Yeah, and that's actually going to play into more stuff about Kenny as well, because he's a big part of that as well. But basically, you have this guy, he's named Rice. They say Rice in the dub.
It's Rice.
We're gonna call him Rice, I guess.
Rice, fried rice.
He's probably the ugliest motherfucker in this entire show. I hate his face.
Looks like the most middle-aged male character ever.
Dude looks.
How to explain that?
Dude looks like a Titan pretending to be a human.
Oof.
But he basically wants Historia. Essentially, we learn that Aaron's dad, did something unspeakable forever ago, wherein Aaron's dad. So actually,
for
have
context, the Race family are like, oh, okay.
Have we learned at this point? Did we learn in season 2 or this one where eating like a pure Titan eating one of the 9 Titans is what turns them into the sentient Titans?
So it's kind of implied. They kind of figure it out from when You remember when Reiner is talking to Chris.
Ymir. He's talking to Ymir.
Ymir. When Reiner's talking to Ymir, they kind of figure out from that conversation that the Titans might be able to become human again by eating somebody who has Titan powers. One of the 9. That out, and then it's explicitly stated by the Rice family after they've captured Eren.
Yeah.
So the Rice family's deal is they're the true royal family of the Walls, and they've been passing down this founding Titan, which is supposed to be a Titan that has the ability to like basically control every other Titan and also the memories of all the people in the Walls. And they had that Titan stolen from them by Eren's dad when he ate their sister or his daughter.
Yeah. And so we get a lot comes out from this. One of the most important themes that comes from this is generational. What's the word
trauma.
I'm looking? Generational trauma. I guess it's like people passing their mistakes down to the ones, and this is from this point forward. It takes up a big part of season 4 too, but because Rice is trying to have his daughter, bring back the Founding Titan, inherit the Founding Titan, eat Eren, betray Eren, and she's considering it because she's realized that through her whole childhood, she has pretty much just lived a terrible life. She had this one mother who was it wasn't even her mother, and she was awful to her, or I don't know if it was her mother, but she was just awful to her, very, very, like, mentally abusive. There's this funny...
so mean.
There's this funny part where she figures out, like, she sees in a book, like, a mother hugging her daughter, so she goes to hug her mom, and she just pushes her off. And...
I don't think we ever really found out what her problem was. Like...
We don't get to because eventually Kenny slits her throat, and we don't even get to fully understand who she was or what she had to do with any of this. But that's a very traumatic moment for Historia as well. Is watching Kenny cut her throat in front of her, and I think they're ready to kill Historia, but Rice is like, no, we're not going to do that. That's too far.
Far. And so in exchange for not doing that, that's why they sent her away, right?
Yeah. And so from season 2, you remember when they established Ymir and Historia's relationship, why they started liking each other, because they related to each other's sense of not feeling wanted.
Yeah.
And that is also why she has kind of a close bond out of everybody in this series, why she's one of the closest people to Eren, because he also kind of relates to that sort of feeling of not feeling wanted, especially in this season.
Yeah.
I like
actually like what you said about like people like inheriting their parents like baggage, in quite like a literal sense, because when someone inherits one of the special titans from another person after they eat them, they receive that person's memories, or at least some of them.
yeah.
So quite literally, that the other person's baggage they carry as well. That's
And
actually what the how the royal family that's what their deal is with the founding titan. They technically have all this power, but none of them are willing to actually use it to free people from the titans.
and it happens with Historia, with Rice trying to live through Historia, and it also happens with Eren and his father realizing that now Eren has to pay for the crimes that his father committed. Where Rice is like, you have to kill Eren in order to, even though Eren didn't know anything about any of this. This was all just thrown onto him. But now Rice is like, we have to sacrifice Eren in order to return things back to the way they were. Yeah. And another very tragic part about Historia's backstory is that we learn that there actually was one person who was very kind to her, and it was the founder that was killed by Eren's dad. But she has the ability to remove people's memories, which is very, very important, because that's what she's been doing to everyone in this inside the walls. And every time she made good memories with Historia, she would remove those memories from her brain, just make her forget about all of it. And so up until this point, Historia has repeatedly been considering, like, I could be, finally get the love that I never got as a child from my father, if I do this. I could finally be useful for something, and my life could finally mean something. But if you remember Ymir kind of inspired her to, like, try to be more selfish. Just do what you want to do, and stop trying to live for other people.
To be what other people want you to be.
And it's honestly a really cute moment, because Eren, upon realizing that he has to die because of what his father did, and living with the guilt of that, it's like it's the moment where he starts to kind of give up, because up until this point, Eren has not known anything about these Titans. He's known that they ate his mom, and he's been angry and, like, just thriving on pure hatred for the Titans. But time and time again, everyone that he, becomes friends with, they either betray him or they die, and he can't do anything to stop it. So he's beginning to feel weak. If you remember in season 2, his the one drunk guy died, and he was in shambles over that. And then Reiner and Bertolt betrayed him. Annie betrayed him. So he's had a lot going on at this point, and this is kind of his breaking point, where he's like, God, I want to go into season 4 because it's only interesting to me now because of season 4.
It's so hard not to talk about season 4.
The most I could say is that it's the epitome of that meme of, like, if my character doesn't stop developing, I'm gonna develop into a fucking villain.
The
villain. But this is the point where Eren basically doesn't know what to do anymore, and he kind of just gives up on living, and he wants to die, and he's whining and being a little bitch baby, and Rice is like, "Do it, Historia, you got to do it," and then she knocks the fluid out of his hands. It crashes onto the floor, makes a puddle, and he's like, "No!" And then she's like, "Fuck you, old man." She goes up and, like, frees Eren, and he's like, "No, you're supposed to kill me." And she's like, "Shut up, bitch."
I do what I want.
And she's like,
I'm the worst woman who ever lived.
She's so cute, even when she's trying to be badass. She's just like a little she's a little puppy dog, to be honest. She's like not intimidating at all.
She's baby.
But I love that, because it's like at the beginning of this season, Eren openly states like that. I remember there was this part in season 1, this funny moment where she finds out that I think Reiner and Armin are okay, and then she does this super forced, kind of cringy, like crying, where she's like, "I'm so glad you're okay," and like I remember at the time I cringed because I was like, "That is so fucking forced," but it seems like they're aware of that because that's part of the point. It was like a forced like pretending to care about other people.
Yeah.
And now at this season, she's a lot less happy. She's a lot less like upbeat and chipper like she was in the beginning. And Aaron points that out, where he's like, you know, back then it was really fake, and I could tell it was really fake. Like he was able to kind of see through all of her bullshit. And he's happy that now she's no longer putting up this false front, that she's happy all the time and that she's okay, and she doesn't have to pretend to be okay anymore. She doesn't have to pretend around him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, I guess I shouldn't shit on Aaron so much because season 4 did recontextualize a lot of the things from the first 3 seasons, and this actually kind of brings up the question.
I will say during these first few seasons, Aaron does feel kind of pathetic, especially during that part.
Oh yeah, well, and plus the repetitiveness of like everybody's always constantly trying to take Aaron, and he gets kidnapped. Yeah. He's an interesting character. I can give him that. I can't say he's like the best written character, but he's an interesting character. And it does kind of make me wonder if it's really, you know, like if we should be reviewing stories before they ever see their conclusion, and kind of like the whole argument of like it shouldn't take 3 seasons to get good. Because I think Attack on Titan is the perfect example of something that it gets good once you see the full picture. Because I shit on this series for years and years and years, and it's only now that I'm able to fully appreciate things that I used to say were terrible. And I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept. I don't see that get discussed very much, but we'll talk about that some other time.
Well, I guess I can say I kind of get that too. Like as I was saying in the last season, that segment between Reiner and Bertolt and Ymir talking, and it's like, what are you guys talking
What are you guys
about?
waffling about? What is blood waffling about?
Why are you doing this? And it does make sense later, but like in the moment, it's like it's so hard to stay engaged because you're so lost.
I will say
I do think you can criticize that a little.
I will say, like, I think this series justifies it more than, like, we've been playing Seraphic Blue on this same channel, which does the same thing of, like, alluding to shit in the future. But in the case of Seraphic Blue, it's very obviously just padding for time, whereas in Attack on Titan, everything is clearly just a setup for something that's going to be important much, much later. Season 2 is ripe with that sort of stuff. There's all sorts of things that are just setups for the future in like, future plot points.
Yeah. So actually, while we're here, something I wanted to mention is while all this is going on, like we said, there's like political conflict here. So Erwin basically gets arrested, and they're going to accuse him of committing treason, basically, and then they want to hang him.
And Dot Pixis is conflicted on how to feel about this. Zachary hates the government. Zachary's the old man with the gray hair. And so there's this like big, he basically is like, I don't know who to side with. Should I side with the scouts because they do a lot of fucked up shit, or should I side with the government because they do a lot of fucked up shit? And so it's kind of this whole thing.
The thing that kind of annoyed me about this part is that it all happens like so fast. Like at the end, like at the climax of this arc, basically like an entire coup d'etat happens in like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's very jumbled. It was a satisfying moment, but I guess it's also partly how cartoony these like nobles are. Yeah. They're like cartoonishly evil.
Yeah, they're very like generic. Ooh, I want to hold on to my power. Ooh. I'm gonna do an oppression.
It's like it's like in like a slice of life where when slice of life try to comment on like relatable stuff like having an annoying boss, and then it's the most like over exaggerated like obnoxious type of boss to the point where it's like you can't even really get like mad at it. It's just like it's funny. It's like a cartoonishly awful person.
And I only say that because, like, the political conflicts in season 4 are super interesting.
They're super nuanced too.
Here it's just very simple, and it happens like way too fast and easily, and it's just kind of goofy.
I get it though, because like I think Isayama might have, and this is just a theory. I'm not trying to attribute intent to Isayama. I think he might have just been feeling like we've been going a little bit too long, not focusing on any of the Titans. We should probably wrap this up and just get back to that. Because this stretch, it goes on and on with no Titans. You got Levi fighting, Kenny, and then they go in to go retrieve Erwin, and that whole stretch, which concludes with Erwin just on a whim eating some of that juice that powers him up so he could, like, save his friends.
Oh, that moment was so funny. Because why was there just a vial of Titan hardening juice?
This series has a habit, and it happens again in the second half of the season, of just plot contrivances for the sake of plot contrivances, with no real. It never gets expanded on again. It just happens, because character has plot armor or whatever. Basically, what happens is Rice sees that Historia spilled the juice, and he licks it up off the ground, and he becomes a big-ass Titan. And as that's going on, over back in the inner walls, we got the coup d'etat, where Dot Pixis tricks the fucking government by saying, the Titans have breached the walls. He's like, close the doors. And then he's like, wow, so you're just going to let everybody die. By the way, Titans didn't actually breach the walls, so I, like, totally trolled you.
And get trolled.
And they take over the government.
Like there.
They take over the government, and then they need a new successor, and Historia Mercy GIF right there. That's basically where all of this is building up to, is the king was a fake. He was actually sleeping the whole time. That was kind of a funny gag, I'm not gonna lie, where they reveal that he wasn't even awake for any of this. He was
like a senile old man.
And so we need to have Historia come in, take over, and she'll be the new queen. And
the interesting thing about that, I think, is that it's like the same thing that she's been fighting against. They're trying to put her into a role. And so, Erwin's like insisting that she, accepts the position, pretty much as like a prop, honestly. And she says he has to stay out of battle now because she's the queen. They need her in order for their government to be viewed as legitimate, and she doesn't like that, and so she insists on being involved in the battle to defeat the big Titan that her dad turned into.
And that's that's where that whole thing basically builds up into, is he turns into the biggest Titan we have ever seen, bigger than the Colossal, but he can't walk. He is poorly designed, and it's so weird. They never explain how this really works, but he's the kind of pure Titan that just crawls, and he's massive. And I don't know why licking just a little bit has turned him into such a big fucking beast. Thematically, I know that it's because
my excuse is royal blood.
Fair enough. But he's this massive crawling beast. He's like moving across the ground, and he's making his way to the walls so that he can eat everybody inside the walls. And in all of this, we learn a little bit more about the founder before the girl. I keep forgetting her fucking name. The girl that was taking care of Historia. We find out about the founder that came before her, and Kenny, and why he did all this. Basically, Kenny gets crushed in the rocks. And and he's like on the verge of death.
He got.
And I thought this part was really, really interesting because he's like bleeding out and he's about to die, and he has a vial of the Titan juice, and if he wanted, he could inject himself right now, and he could prolong his life as a pure Titan, and stay one until he either gets killed by the scouts or happens to find one of the 9 Titans and eat them. But he doesn't. Instead, he chooses to give it to Levi as kind of like... so, he has this line where he says, like, everyone's a slave to something, which reinforces the Askeladd comparisons. Where he's been a slave... Forever ago, you know, when he was like a thug going around killing police, he found the Founding Titan, and... It's a very Naruto fight, because, like, he gets grabbed by his Titan hand, he throws a knife at him, he, like, blocks it with his hand. It felt like a very, like, Naruto, like, shot. But then, he instead of fighting anymore, he bows down and apologizes for removing everyone's memory. And so, he and Kenny become friends. And Kenny, for years and years and years, has wanted to inherit that power. I guess at no point did he ever realize, or did they ever choose to tell him, that you have to be of royal blood to do so. So when this whole rice things happens, only then does he learn, oh, I'm not supposed to be the one to inherit this power. Historia is supposed to be the one to inherit this power. And after that, he basically realizes he's been doing all this fighting for nothing, because he so badly wanted to see what he saw. I've seen theories of, like, people asking, like, does he know about outside of the walls? But truthfully, I don't think he does. I think most of the fighting he did was just pure...
Kenny know?
Does he know? Yeah.
I feel like Kenny didn't, right? Like, the people with the Founding Titan definitely knew.
I think he was motivated purely off of just protecting the Founder, and that's it. I don't think he knew anything about outside the walls. He probably could make some guesses, but
I think that the thing was he wanted to know. He wanted to know what the people at the Founding Titan could see, because they're kind of weird. Like, they have this all-powerful Titan, but they refuse to actually use it to free people from the attacks of the Titans. And every time someone inherits the Founding Titan, even though they think they want to use it to fix the world, they think the same thing. They think they decide to do nothing.
The generational curse reinforced once again.
Yeah, and it's like, what does he know? That's kind of Kenny's motivation. He wants to know what they saw.
Kenny, in some ways, feels like a distorted version of Erwin, because, as you see later, Erwin has the same complex. Both of them are slaves to wanting to know the truth, but in Kenny's case, it's from a more selfish standpoint, whereas for Erwin's case, he thinks that the truth being kept from everyone is itself wrong. And so they are kind of polar opposites in that regard, but both of them do sacrifice people for their own goals. It's just that in the case of Kenny, he does it for himself. This is all purely a selfish motivation. Whereas for Erwin, he sacrifices people for everyone else, for the greater good.
And actually, I wanted to mention that what you said about Kenny, his sort of final monologue and how everyone's a slave to something, it really connects with a lot of the themes of, like, a season 4. Because season 4 has a lot of questions about, like, free will and, like, whether we're really in control of our actions or if we're being manipulated, or if it's the memories of others,
or if it's all just preordained. All of it was just going to happen. That is kind of a question I've grappled with from time to time, where I think, like, is every decision I make actually my decision, or was that decision going to happen no matter what? Even me thinking this, like, was that part of all, like, you know, but...
Yeah. And I think we'll definitely talk about that more in season 4 and how it affects, like, Aaron's mindset. But for now, this kind of is like it sets up that idea.
Basically, like, Yavi gains freedom by instead choosing to give the vial to Levi and do something good in his final moments. And, instead of pursuing his same selfish goals.
Yeah.
It's the first time in his entire life, really, aside from when he took care of Levi, that he decides to just give up on himself and help others. And he does so by giving Levi the vial. And there is one little thing about this whole stretch, as touching and meaningful and great as it is that it happens after the big battle against the big Titan. Meaning that he's been bleeding out here that whole time, and he had to wait for them to come back to the whole thing. and it's so dumb.
Bro was just sitting there.
Anyway, so then you have the big battle against the Titan. Like you said, Historia fights against it. And I think I remember there was this part where Mikasa's like, if we beat it, you have to punch Levi. And because Levi's a dick. And so they fight the Titan, and it's really, really good. They do stick the landing. They have this nice strategy where the Titan's like crawling over the walls, and there's a little bit of this like corny part where there's 3 kids looking at the Titan crawling over the walls, and Eren and Armin are like, wow, they're just like us. But it crawls over the walls, and then essentially the plan is to get it, they fuck up its hands so it'll fall back down and the mouth will be at wall height, and then I don't remember exactly how they do it, but they have Eren
like a bag of explosives, because they aren't able to like actually hurt the Titan until it exposes its like open mouth. And so that's the closest they can get to the nape and the guy inside.
The way it's animated was really good. I did have kind of a gripe because when he throws the barrels into its mouth, it looked like 40% of the barrels didn't even land in the mouth and all just fell out the way they had animated it, and it pissed me off. But it blows up, and they kill it, and then its parts are all flying over the city, and all of the scouts have to go out, including Historia, have to go out and like cut the nape, the actual nape part, the chunk with the nape.
Yeah, figure out which one the guy's inside.
And Historia does it, and then she gets praised as a hero, and then she accepts the role of queen, and she only seems to accept it because she wants to. She's not doing this for Erwin. She's not doing this for Levi. She's doing this for herself. Because she thinks
proves herself.
She thinks it's the right thing to do. I think this whole stretch is really good. I love the way they develop Historia's character. I think that, basically, not to like spoil, but I mean, this is barely a spoiler. After this, she's virtually useless. She like takes a back seat in the narrative,
little presence,
and I think that completely contradicts the whole thing about her not wanting to be a queen that doesn't go into battle.
Yeah.
Wasted potential.
I kind of feel like it was a nice way to wrap up her arc. It is kind of disappointing how little presence she has later, but she's also gotten like a lot of development, and season 4 gives the opportunity for a lot of other characters to get that same amount of development. So I'm not too mad about it.
Well, there is a much bigger problem with her in season 4 that I'll go into when we get to season 4, but it borders a little bit on being homophobic. Either way, back to the subject at hand. I mean, that pretty much wraps it up. There is like a cute little moment where she punches Levi, and he, like, they're all, like, she's scared shitless because it's Levi, and they're all, like, shocked, and then he just laughs, and it's really, really cute and, like, heartwarming because, he's got comrades, and he never had anybody in his childhood to, so, like, moments like this, I don't know, it just brings it, like, he just laughs, and he...
It is a really funny moment, because, like, they're, like, hyping her up.
Yeah.
And she finally does it, and she's like, ha, I'm the queen. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, bitch. And I don't
But
know.
then she's
She's
still scared of him.
for honestly for the first 3 seasons, Historia best girl. She's been best girl since the fucking outset. She gets dethroned in season 4, but that's season 4, like I said. Although that character that I'm referencing, subtly referencing there from season 4, does show up this season. You just don't get to see her. So I mean, I and then after that, basically they're ready to go head to the. I don't remember. I forget
now
which
they
wall
can
it was.
go fill the was it wall? It was Mall Maria, right?
Yeah, and Erwin, he like yells out, and it's like hype, and it gets you excited, and then it goes on hiatus again, and we don't get to see the rest of the season for like another year.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that the interesting thing is at the end of the season. So throughout the whole series, basically, people have had a very low opinion of the Survey Corps because they just keep going out and they keep just getting their butts kicked by the Titans, and so people think they're kind of useless. But once they get like a big victory with destroying that huge Titan, everyone starts like cheering for them. They actually start supporting the Titans, and Erwin like sees that. He sees that people are rooting for him now, and that's when he does his like triumphant yell.
He's like, "Yeah, let's
really,
go!"
It's a really great moment. I liked that a lot.
And so that's pretty much part 1. I don't have much else to say. I mean, I feel like we could have gone more into like the founding Titan guy, but like there's just barely anything to him aside from he's friends with Kenny.
It's not as interesting until you get to season 4. I
So
know.
yeah, and there's not. I mean, this stretch. Honestly, my problem with it really is that you complained that it felt like it went by too fast. I complained it did feel like it went on a little too long. Because there's actually real quick. There's like a whole character we didn't even mention, and I am kind of seeing what you mean because there's a whole character we didn't even mention named Flegel, and I fucking hate him. Because he's ugly, and he gets his character development happens off screen. It happens off screen.
Exactly that. Yeah.
But at the same time, like I keep feeling like there's just where are the Titans? Where's the I guess it's just that it's not as endearing as it could have been, especially when you see what season 4 has to offer.
Yeah.
It starts really.
It's just not as. It is like a political conflict kind of stuff like season 4, but it's just not as interesting. It doesn't get invested.
The problem is that I think they start with too much gas, and then like as it goes on, it just starts to drag a little bit because they're not entirely sure how to make all this work alongside. Because there's too many moving parts. There's so much shit going on at the same time, and they're trying to really wrap it all up, but they haven't quite figured out how to make it, like endearing or like fun to watch like it was at the very start. So now season 3 part 2. This whole stretch is more kind of what I wanted out of season 3 part 1 in terms of like pacing. It is very, very tight. Everything flows naturally, and it's just hype, 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 hype. And then even when it cools down, it's still endearing and it's still interesting. Granted, it's because it's the moment that we've all been waiting for, the basement and the reveal of what these Titans even are. But
yeah,
season 3 part 2 is excellent storytelling, whereas season 3 part 1 is just good storytelling. So this half of the season is way, way, way better, like leagues better than the previous one.
Yeah, and it's so cool because it's the climax. So it's sort of the final showdown between Erwin and Aaron and this Survey Corps against Reiner, Bertolt, and this mysterious Beast Titan dude.
Yeah, and so pretty much like one of my biggest problems with Attack on Titan leading up to this point, even in season 3 part 1, is that there's just so much talking, so much fucking dialogue, and so much just, lore dumping and speculating and this and that. And there is action, but it comes in bursts. And then between that, you got like weird stretches of just them padding the pacing out to fit the whole thing. But this one is the first. It's like the first actual moment in the series where I just feel like the pacing is perfect. And that stays. It stays from this point forward to the end of the series. The pacing stays impeccable. And just absolutely just grabs my attention and keeps it and holds it in like a vice. And from the start, like you got the calm before the storm, where they're heading to they're going through the woods at night, and it's like very atmospheric because they're in Titan territory, and then there's this sleeping Titan, and they don't even notice it until like it's right there, and they're like, oh fuck, how did we not even see that? They're all like deeply, deeply anxious and terrified. Aaron, go ahead.
Oh yeah, keep going.
No, you keep going, bitch.
I was just gonna say it's a very, it's like it's not the action hasn't started yet, but there's this subtle tension, that just kind of increases more and more until the actual battle starts.
And it's very anxiety inducing because once they actually arrive, there's nothing there, nobody there. The Titans aren't there. There's nothing. It's a completely barren wasteland. But you know,
like, aren't they gonna stop us?
Yeah, and then they find remnants of a camp that seems to have gone out recently. So they know that they're nearby, but they don't know where. And Armin gets a lot of time to shine in this one, because he basically he's like, oh shit, they're in the walls. So he has all these soldiers. It's such a funny moment because Erwin believes in Armin. Yeah, and it kind of sets up this whole thing of like Erwin sees Armin's potential, because up until now, most of the strategies have been from Erwin or Armin. Those two have been the ones basically carrying this series. Coming up with all the 4D chess like Armin's idea in season 1 to have like there's a room full of Titans, and then they descend in the carrier with their guns to blind them, and then have people come out and kill them. Like stuff like that. Armin's been... You really forget how much Armin kicks ass in this series. And they're like my top 2. And that's important for what happens later. But he like, Erwin's like, everybody listen to Armin, and Armin is like anxious and nervous as shit, and then he's like, search the walls, everybody, if that's okay with you, if you're fine with that. he kind of has this imposter syndrome.
Responsibility. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And that does not go away, not even in season 4. He basically, he's like, I don't know what I'm fucking doing here.
I'm trying. I'm fucking trying. I've only been doing this for 2 fucking days. Like, shit. Give me a fucking break.
But one of them finds Reiner, and this is kind of the start of a few of my problems here, where Mikasa quickly, like, or Levi, one of the Ackermans.
Levi.
Yeah, fuck you. Before and after transition, it's Levi and Mikasa. And Levi, he cuts his nape, but then they introduce this.
Him in the neck.
They do this stupid, like, Reiner's like, it's a good thing I distributed my consciousness to a different part of my body, and he does that one more time this season, and that's it. We don't learn about.
Gets discussed again.
We don't learn about any of that ever again in season 4, and that's just the thing. Isayama has a habit of relying on plot devices to get characters out of precarious situations. But Reiner appears.
It's also such a great way to start the battle, because as soon as Reiner gets found out, the lightning shows up, and then the Beast Titan shows up with all his like little Titan goons surrounding.
His what?
I did. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Goons just meant goons, man. You know.
Yeah. So this part this is what I mean when I say like military strategy, because it feels like Death Note now, or like
Yeah. Or like Galactic Heroes.
like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, or Code Geass.
Okay. Don't call
Yeah,
it that.
isn't that how it's pronounced? Is Code
It's called
Geass?
yes.
You're retarded.
No.
You're anyway. So basically, what the Beast Titan does is, he's got his like trump card, which is the Colossal Titan. If he throws him, the Colossal Titan will blow up, and so he basically like it splits the characters up into two halves, because you got Erwin and
Erwin, the Survey Corps on one
Erwin,
side.
Levi, and the new Survey Corps. They took along that one guy that looks like Mob Psycho, and this character named Flock, who isn't super important but will be next season, and a bunch of other newbies that they're new to this shit. They don't know what they're doing, and they're on the outside of the wall. And now you've got all these Titans completely surrounding it. It's like a flank formation. And
it's cool because their goal was to seal the wall, but the Beast Titan actually seals the wall for them in order to trap them, so they can't go through the wall, and they're surrounded by Titans.
Yeah,
on
he
all sides,
throws a
and they're
boulder.
trapped.
He throws a boulder, and they're like, "Wait, he missed." And then Erwin's like, "Nope, he got it dead on, because he blocked the entrance. We can't go back inside now. So we're trapped outside, and now we can't go anywhere because there's Titans all around us. If we go anywhere, they're gonna grab us and eat us."
Yeah, and if they get our horses, then we'll never be able to get out of here.
And so on the inside, Reiner, he crawls up the wall, and he's ready to go smash the horses. But Erwin comes up with the brilliant idea of having, since Eren is what they're looking for, they're going to have Eren turn into a Titan and run back, like out to the other side. And so Reiner's thinking for a second, like, oh, I see what they're doing. They're going to have Eren run around and then attack the Beast Titan, and he'll never be able to see what's coming. But then he thinks, well, if they really wanted to get Eren out of here, they could just have him leave as a human. Like, he could just leave. He doesn't even have to be here, and we'd be wasting our time. And then he realizes, like, you're trying to get me to go away from the horses, you motherfucker. And it's so good, because, like, oh god, like, Erwin and Ryder, they like look at each other, and Erwin's just looking at this big ass Titan, and he's just not afraid, like, very, like, take the bait. Go ahead, do it.
The best part is, like, Reiner realizes he has no choice but to take the bait, and so he has to jump down anyway, and Erwin just wins the stare off against.
It's so charming, like how Reiner's like, and after I climbed all the way up here, like, it's so good. God, it's so good. And so then it becomes Reiner versus Eren, and the rest of the everybody else. And Levi, he's down with the new recruits, and they're like worried, like, okay, well, that problem solved. What do we do now? And then a little pebble like goes by his face, and the Beast Titan is crushing rocks, which are being brought to him by Best Girl. She looks ugly, and she looks a little goofy in this form, but don't worry about it. She's actually a bad bitch. And he's like, she's bringing him rocks. And he's crushing them and throwing them at these at the outside of the wall and killing all of these new recruits. And it's so fucked up, because it's like, these are people that they're super new to this whole thing. They don't have a lot of experience like the Survey Corps do. So Levi and Erwin, they don't have a lot to work with right now. They don't have a lot of skill to work with. And then the Beast Titan also, he takes the... well, before I get to that. So we're cutting back and forth between these two fights. Very shonen, and Eren, this time, is kicking Reiner's ass. Just absolutely bodying him. And so are the rest of them. Because they basically... He gets cooked.
They made a new weapon.
They have this new weapon where it's similar to the guns that the military police, the interior police had, but instead of just shooting bullets, it shoots explosives, and they pull the string and it blows up like like dynamite. And they basically they fuck Reiner up. Essentially, they unhinge his jaw, and then they just fire one into his mouth, shoot him out, and like they fuck him up. And what's also surprising is that he survives this too through the same thing, where he like distributes his consciousness to the rest of his body so that the nape is no longer affected. And it's like he should be dead. He's died. He has died twice.
Like his skull is caved in, but it's cool, guys, because I distributed my conscience to my Titan's nervous system.
Call him Sekiro the way he died twice. So then the Beast Titan throws Bertolt over the wall, and this is another fucking great. There's a lot.
He throws a barrel, and everybody's looking at it like, what? Why do you throw a barrel? And then it clicks. Oh, that's Bertolt.
But Bertolt doesn't blow up yet, because right as he's about to bite his hand, he looks over and he sees that Reiner's been fucked up. And so he comes down, and there's this really, really good and meaningful moment where he talks to Armin, and then Armin tries to use the usual, like, well, hey, like, let's not do this, let's talk. And then he's like, if I agree to talk, will you guys die for me? And he's like, what? No, are you, what? And then he's like, you guys have to die. That is how this has to work. I will not be backing down from this position. And then he's like, well, that's a damn shame, because Annie's been tortured. He's like, fuck off, I don't care.
Yeah, it's a great moment, because Armin's trying to do the same thing he did last time, which is, scare Bertolt by talking about how much Annie's going to suffer. But Bertolt is like, he's locked in.
He's locked the fuck in. He's ready.
For those tricks now.
And it's a very meaningful moment, because he accepts basically they have to die. They have to. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want this. But I'm okay with it now.
It's another one of those things where, like, I was watching it, and it's like, I still don't get why do you gotta do this, though? Like, you objectively did not need to do all that.
Well, season 4...
It starts to make more sense. You start to really understand him when you watch season 4, and you know why Reiner and them are trying to...
when you're not given the full picture... That's what I love about this series, is that this moment feels weird when you don't have the context. Then you get the context, you look back on it, and it's so meaningful. And it's like, it kind of makes you get attached to Bertolt, seeing how he's developed, how he's changed, and accepted that he has to do these terrible things that he doesn't want to do.
Yeah. It's so weird how, like, this series almost feels like better the second time you watch it.
Yeah.
Just because of how the added context changes everything. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I don't see a lot of series do that, to be honest. I mean, because even when I think about, like, how Monster is the greatest thriller ever written, there are moments that you appreciate more after you watch it, but there's never any moments like this where it's like, well, that was weird, I don't get the significance of that. That just feels like it has nothing, and then, like, you rewatch it and you're like, oh shit, never mind, I see what you're cooking now. Because when I watched Monster,
it makes a lot more sense the first time, and I think that's a good thing, honestly.
That is a good thing, and I do prefer that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know, Attack on Titan seems to take risks, and the payoff seems to depend, honestly.
I think it's definitely, like, if season 4 was not as good as it was and it didn't answer all these questions, then this would really suck. This would really suck.
I think, well, maybe not suck, but just it would not be the best. Like, it would. Season 4 seems to have single-handedly turned this into, like, almost a masterpiece, to be honest. It at least showed that it's smarter than it pretends to be. I suppose is a way of putting it. Or it's more smart than people give it credit for. Because I'm realizing that had it not been for season 4, I would have thought it was just standard shonen. Like, there's nothing in here that's any more impressive than, like, My Hero Academia. You know, like, it's not, like, the best of the best. And then season 4 comes along, and it's like, hey, this is actually a very, very, like, this is much more complex than you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, all of this matters.
I've never seen that. It gave intentionality to something that I thought did not have it. Was just generic slop.
He really cooked us, bro.
He really ate.
He got us.
He duped everybody. Isayama, you mad lad. So,
although even if there wasn't all these answers in season 4, this season is so hype. The action is so good with military strategy.
Because, like, the reason that I'm reluctant to say that, it was always, like, bad is because, like, even season 1 with the fight against Annie, season 2 with the fucking knocking the cannon down and fighting the Titans and all that crazy. There was crazy shit happening. There was an appeal, but it's like, it did not feel like it was ever gonna, reach my 3x3. It did not feel like this is the best thing I've ever seen until season 4. And then season 4 made me love the first 3 seasons more. That is hard to do. That is really hard to do. And he pulls that off.
We're trying so hard not to gush about season 4, but we do it anyway.
I think the reason as well, or like the only other series I've seen do this is, like, Breaking Bad was already, like, top tier, and then Better Call Saul comes along and makes it even better. That's the only other example I could think of. But back to kind of what happens with this whole fight, because we're waffling about season 4 again.
What is
basically, like, what happens is Bertolt, he's reached this point now where he's like, I accept that you have to die. I accept that, this is how it has to happen. He transforms, and there's this gorgeous shot of him, like, the explosion, and Erwin on top of the wall watching this explosion from afar. And so now we get Bertolt versus Eren and crew, with them absolutely stumped. They do not know what to do. There's this giant fucking colossal titan. It's heading for the wall. It's going to crush those horses. They can't do anything. They don't know what to do.
So the crisis is that they need the horses to be able to get out of there because it's Titan territory. But on one side, the Beast Titan has the trap because he's got his formation of Titans surrounding them, and he's throwing rocks at the town. And then on the other side, Bertolt's threatening to walk over to the wall and drop a bunch of burning houses on the horses. And if either the Beast Titan or the Colossal Titan get the horses, it's Jover.
Bro, thank you.
So they've got to stop the Colossal Titan from doing that.
Bro, thank he Fire Emblem. This does feel like a Fire Emblem mission, I'm not gonna lie.
It does, and that's why it's peak.
And, but, so, there's this super, like, so, which one do we want to talk about first? Erwin or Armin? Which one?
I feel like Armin's side first, because Erwin's side is like the super duper peak climax, greatest moment of all time. So
basically, Eren is stumped. He doesn't know what to do, and he tries to grab the Colossal Titan's leg, and it kicks him into the wall.
He's like kicked like a football.
And then the rest of them are so lost, and Armin's just sitting there thinking, like, what the fuck do we do? Because, I mean, what do you do in that situation? But then Armin realizes that it got thinner. And so he's like, wait a minute, this is a battle of attrition. Every time it uses its steam, even just moving, like, it takes energy for this Titan. And the more of it uses, it's got to run out eventually, right? So Armin makes his way to Eren, and then he and Eren, they talk, and they come up with a strategy. And Eren kind of suspects, like, this strategy is gonna hurt you, Armin. Like, what are you cooking? Like, are you gonna make it out of this? And on some level, Eren already knows that Armin's kind of planning to kill himself to do this. But basically the strategy is that Eren has to pretend to fall. If I lose it, I'll slip and fall. I'll never look away. And then Armin has to hook onto the Titan's tooth, and so that it'll hold. Because if he hooks onto the skin, it won't hold. So he has to hook onto its tooth, and then it'll start emitting steam. And the steam will block its field of vision so that when it looks down at Eren, it just sees a silhouette. But Eren's going to harden, and then he's going to come out as a human, wait until the Titan's done with its whole, like, steam thing, and he's already behind it, and he can kill him, and easy peasy. He gets to its nape, very set and structured distraction, and then exploitation strategy.
Fell for my ruse.
And it's a very, up until this point, I was very attached to Armin because of the three main characters, because I didn't like Eren very much. I really don't care much for Mikasa. But Armin, I loved
Armin
him.
Was carrying the
he
bunch.
was carrying. He was hard carrying. And so when this happened, I was like, no, do not do this to me. Because the way he goes out, too, is fucking brutal.
Oh,
He's getting burned alive. Like, he literally gets lit on fire from the steam. And his voice gets weaker with every passing moment until he's just so fried and cooked that he's just...
he's just a charred corpse.
And then, so... right before this, we had a moment in which Armin's like, once we're done with this, we could finally go see the sea. But Eren, by this point, seems to have given up on that whole ideal, thinking that that's just wishful thinking. There's not a sea out there. There's no way. There's no way there's actually a sea out there. Because he's grown up, and he thinks that's just a childish dream now. So... It's kind of sad because in this moment, Eren's basically realizing that he, basically, like, he's like, those dreams aren't real, and now it doesn't matter if they're real or not, because he's not going to be there to experience them. He's not going to be able to achieve them like he wanted to. And it really fucks Eren up. It's a very, very, heart-wrenching moment.
There's this moment, like, he's contemplating, like, the difference between him and Armin. The reason Eren fights is he wants revenge on the Titans, and he hates the idea of being trapped in the walls. But Armin fights because he wants to see the world. He wants to discover things, and it's something that's a lot more pure, a lot more a lot more pure-hearted than his motivation. And it's kind of tragic to see him,
And this is why Eren and Armin is a better ship than Eren and Mikasa. Don't at me.
Anyway, so
we
like gay shit. Anyway, so while that's happening on the inside of the walls, what's happening on the outside is even more peak than that somehow, because Erwin, they're getting slaughtered. Like, the rocks are just tearing them to shreds. They're trying to hide behind the houses. And Erwin sits down with a sad expression because he has a strategy. He knows a way out of this. But if he does it, he's going to have to die. And I think what's so good about this is that up until now, we've learned from... We didn't really go into it in, part one. But basically, I guess now is a good time to go into kind of his backstory.
Yeah.
When he was a kid... He asked a question, is there life outside the walls while in class? And his dad did not answer the question and instead pulled him aside after class and told him that he has a theory that, yes, there are people outside the walls. So he goes and he starts blabbing about this to other students, and then his dad dies. And that kind of fucks him up a little bit. Because he basically has to live with the knowledge that he is partially responsible for his father's death. Even though he was a kid, and you can't really hold him accountable for that, he still in some ways feels like he was complicit in his father's death. And that kind of molds his philosophy of, like, you know, the truth will set you free. Like, you should not keep the truth from the people.
Yeah.
And
the tragic thing is, the one thing that he really wants is to get to the basement and find out, like, the truth about the world. And he's thinking about it, like, during this fight, he's like, you know, even if we lose, I could still make it to the basement before I die. I could still get that truth that I've always wanted. But he tells Levi, but our comrades are from beyond the grave. They're watching us.
so
And, like, he's got this responsibility to his men to lead them to victory.
So what I was going to go into was, like, because that kind of leads into his whole philosophy, basically, of, like, sacrifice, of, like, you can't achieve anything without sacrifice, which every character believes in one way or another. His is even back in season 1, he's been sacrificing human lives. He tells them that you're probably gonna die before they even start. Like, he makes sure to let them know, so it's not like they didn't sign up for this. But he usually, much of the time throughout the entire series, has been sacrificing other people in order to get ahead for what he believes is the greater good. Everything that he does is motivated by the greater good. And almost using the memory of those people as a way of justifying his own actions. But now, this is the first time where it's like the greater good, like what's right for everyone and what's right for him, start to contradict each other. And he basically realizes, I will not get to be a part of that. And it's very sad because with his father, and how his, like, father was killed by government officials because he went and told, he blabbed to everybody. That was what inspired him to first become a soldier in the first place, and it's been why he's been, like, gambling everything on Eren, because he's had a kind of hunch. Before this whole thing even starts, he and Levi, they have a conversation where Levi says, hey, I have a hunch that I have a feeling that you're gonna die if you keep good, because you don't have an arm anymore. You lost your arm last season, and I do not want you to head to battle. You need to stay here. And Erwin and his pride, he's like, no, I'm going, and I don't care what you do. You're not going to stop me. I'm going because I want to see the truth with my own eyes. And I think the interesting part about that conversation is that Levi asks him, like, well, what will you do when you see it? And then Erwin's like, I don't know. I'm not going to know until I see it. And so that's kind of like a complex that he has of, like, now having to grapple with the fact that he's not going to get to see it. It's clear that he's kind of a slave to that desire to see the truth. And in this moment, he gains freedom by choosing to sacrifice himself for the sake of others. And Levi tells him, like, give up on your dream and die.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
That was another great line.
So basically, Erwin figures out that he's got one victory condition, and that is to lead a huge suicide charge at the Beast Titan in order to distract the Beast Titan so that Levi can sneak up on it by himself. And he knows that if he's not the one leading the charge, then nobody's gonna follow him because it's
fucking Erwin. I love the part,
and that's why he has that conflict.
I love the part where Levi's like, "How am I gonna do it? There's nothing to hook onto." He's like, "There happens to be a line of objects right there for you to hook onto," and he means the Titans. He uses his left flank, basically using the Titans that the Beast Titan. Now knowing that the Beast Titan turned them into Titans and is now weaponizing them for the sake of his goals, he's using that against him as his own, like, Achilles heel, where the very Titans he created as slaves to his goals are now being used against him as it's an interesting, it's very, very, very interesting. So now all that's left is for Erwin to convince the others to charge, and he says, "Hey, we're gonna charge, and a lot of you are probably gonna end up dead."
And so here's the deal: we're all gonna die.
Erwin be like, "Yeah, this strategy will kill everyone. Drop it." He's literally the Farquaad meme of like, "Some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make."
But he's awesome.
So this part is so good. We've been gassing up season 4 again and again and again, but nothing in season 4, in my opinion, nothing in season 4 can even touch the level of peak from this part right here.
I'm forced to agree with you.
This is the absolute best part of Attack on Titan, because it's Erwin's best moment. He really goes out with a bang because he gives this amazing speech that kind of sums up his philosophy and sums up the themes of the series thus far, talking about how, yes, we're gonna die, and no matter what we do, it doesn't stop what a rock does to a human body. But think of your dead comrades. Were they meaningless? And then, he's yelling. He's like, "They were not!" And it's so...
It is the job of the living to give meaning to the dead.
And so he inspires them to charge, even though they all know they're gonna die. And it's raw. It's raw. Because, I keep forgetting his name. The guy that I keep saying looks like Mob Psycho. The guy that's always with Hitch.
Yeah, that guy.
That part, he's charging, and the Beast is getting ready to throw another round, and he finds himself thinking about Hitch. He's like, "Well, I wonder what Hitch is doing right now. She's probably sleeping. That sounds very nice." And then he thinks for a minute. He's like, "Why am I?" And then a rock goes directly into his head and kills him. And it's brutal. Very. Bro was a simp till the end. But it's brutal. Isayama really, really likes dangling ships in front of the viewer's face and then just tearing them apart by killing them. He did that with Petra and the one guy in season 1 just to piss his fans off. That's the only reason he did it.
He's real for that. You know what? Shipping Twitter we've had enough of shipping Twitter. They deserve to suffer.
So, this fucking amazing moment. And then Erwin, he gets hit in the gut and he falls to the ground. And Levi, the Beast Titan... Okay, so the Beast Titan, he sees this charge and he gets angry. So angry he crushes a boulder to dust. And then he realized, because in his eyes, he's angry that they don't know anything. And now they're charging to their death thinking, oh, might as well, right? Because he's angry at their pride because of how prideful they're being. Of a very, well, if I'm going to die, I might as well die.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. And I don't want to go too much into, the Beast Titan yet, because obviously he gets developed in Season 4, but what do you think is, the main reason this makes him so angry?
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, because it does make more sense. It's funny how he views them with kind of, pity. Gosh, you poor things, I'm gonna kill all of you. And this is what you're doing. You're using their final moments to do this pointless charge against me.
Basically, so what I don't remember what his philosophy is called, but the Beast Titan's philosophy is not a very interesting one. It's basically our lives mean nothing, and we shouldn't even exist to begin with. It's kind of
it's nihilistic.
It's like a nihilistic, cynical look on we just shouldn't even be alive to begin with. And so the idea of I may die, but I'm going to face my death head on, it infuriates him. It really does not sit right with him, because he thinks that we should just, accept our deaths rather than, fight a meaningless fight.
Struggle meaninglessly. Yeah, and that's like something I didn't pick up on the first time because I didn't know what his deal was. But again, we're gonna say it over and over again. Season 4 puts it all into context.
I remember when we were watching this together, I kept saying, like, Season 4 explains it. Season 4.
Did, and I did not believe
you. Didn't believe me, and then you made a joke of, like, Attack on Titan fans when Season 4 explains why their dad left them. And I was right.
I owe you an apology. I really wasn't familiar with your game.
But yeah, so that's another thing that gets explained in Season 4. We'll go into that. But Levi kills his Titan. He notices that his Titans are dead, and then out comes Levi in one of the... Like, he fucks
one
him
of the best Sakuga moments in the whole series.
Tears through his arm, and then he cuts his eyes, so now he can't see, cuts his legs, so he's, like, on the ground, and then just goes ham on his nape, and fucks him up, cuts off his limbs, shoves the sword into his mouth, and he's, like, ready to take him, and he's like, I think, if Erwin or any of the other soldiers are alive, I'm gonna feed you to them. I'm gonna turn them into a pure Titan, and I'm gonna feed you to them. That's how much I fucking hate you. And, but it doesn't quite work out, because he did not account for the cart Titan, and she comes in, grabs him, and then he tells the other Titans to kill him, and so Levi, covered in blood and just absolutely brimming with rage, he's like, no, where are you going? I'm supposed to kill you, come back here! And so he kills the rest of the Titans, and it's revealed that Flock... What, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna, but he gets away. Beast Boy gets away.
Yeah, that's the main point. And then it turns out Flock, who was one of the newcomers, this ginger fuckboy, it turns out he survived. Right. And what I find so funny is I know that we watched this subbed together, but I watched the dub. The dub's not bad. I love Erwin's voice actor. God, he killed it. The speech is actually better in the dub than it is in the sub somehow. But Flock's voice actor sounds fruity as hell. They made him sound super gay. It's so funny. Anyway, it turns out Flock is alive, and he finds Erwin, and he finds that Erwin actually isn't dead yet. He's bleeding out, his fucking stomach's been torn to shreds, but he's not dead. So he brings him to the inner wall, and, the Beast Titan, he's like... This whole thing's kind of convoluted. Basically, like, Reiner got cooked, Bertolt got cooked, and they are deciding what to do with Bertolt, because they find out that Armin's still alive, and somehow, even though he's a charred black mass...
They show him to Levi. Levi's got the Titan and the vaccine.
And the Beast Titan and the Cart Titan, they show up to Eren, and then the Beast Titan's like, hey, so, like, your dad is a dick, and I know because he was a dick to me too, and I'm really sorry. This will all make sense in time. Bye, and then so while that's happening, Reiner, he's cooked, and then Hanji. There was a whole thing with Hanji where Hanji's eye got fucked up that we didn't go over, where they got knocked into a well by one of their people. This was when Bertolt had exploded, and all of Hanji's men are dead, and now Hanji's the only one left, and they don't have an eye now. They got an eye patch now. And so...
They want to kill him so bad.
They want to kill Reiner, but I think it was like Connie or John or one of the other ones are like, I think we should feed Reiner to someone and make use of his powers. And Hanji's like, you know what? Go ahead. And so has like Mikasa go unite with Levi and them. And then Mikasa sees that Armin got fucked up, and she's in shambles because that's her childhood friend.
Best bestie.
And then the cart titan comes and grabs Reiner, so Reiner's no longer, he's no longer a consideration. And Hanji is like very pissed off about that, but Hanji takes full blame for that because, there's like, I trusted your decision.
Yeah.
It's not on you. I didn't kill him. It's on me. Don't feel bad. Kind of interesting little moment there. It's more deep than we're giving it credit, but we've been waffling about this for fucking ever.
Waffling for too long.
Yeah, so
What are we yapping about?
So you can kind of talk about this next stretch. Basically, Floke brings Erwin to the
so Levi's about to use the injection on Armin, and at that moment, Flock shows up with Erwin's body.
And so this causes some drama. Some probably the most tense moment yet.
A little bit of drama because Mikasa is like ready to like attack Levi over the injection. So give it to Armin, and they have to like hold her back, and it's really sad.
So this moment, like, I just went dead. When I first saw this, I went dead silent. I was in pure shock because it was like I was having to pick between my top two, pretty much. It's a very, very, very good moment. It's very strong, very sad, because I didn't want either of them to die. I loved both of them, and seeing either of them die was like, no. And so it's a brilliant moment. I do have to pick on it a little bit, though, because the entire debate is just Erwin is a tactical genius. Flock even makes the point that, like, Flock even makes the point, like, he doesn't deserve to die yet. We need him to beat these Titans. He has not earned his right to die yet. And, like, Levi's like, he's useful. He's a genius. They go on and on about all these different reasons why Erwin is the superior choice. And honestly, I kind of agree with all of them. Erwin is the better choice because he's a natural-born leader. He's been responsible for, most of the victories thus far. And Aaron...
even though we love Armin, it's kind of objectively clear that Erwin has the results.
And
his resume is more stacked.
And Aaron makes a couple arguments like, well, Armin did a couple cool things sometimes. Also, he wanted to see the sea. And that's it. That's their argument, is just he really, really wanted to see the sea, and he didn't get to, and that's really sad. And it was a little frustrating, but at the same time, I also get it, because it's like, you got one side, they're arguing logic. They're arguing, like, a more, like, this is what is beneficial for humanity objectively. And then you've got the other side, they're arguing emotion. And that's like the yin and yang dynamic of like logic versus emotion, the two kind of sides of humanity, that I thought was a very interesting, but it's pretty easy to clown on because it is just basically wall of text versus the sea.
Yeah, I think ultimately the reason why like Levi chooses Armin though is like he sees Erwin and he sees how much Erwin has like suffered for the sake of the greater good, and he's like, you've been through enough, man. You've been through enough.
You deserve a retirement. And he notices that this is the first time that Erwin has ever chosen the greater good over himself. He's sacrificed himself for others, and Erwin wants to respect that decision. And I love this moment because right as he's about to give the injection to Erwin, he throws his hand up because it seems like he's stuck in the past of when he was in the classroom, and he threw his hand up in the air to ask his dad the question. And it kind of juxtaposes what set him on this journey to his final moments. And it swipes the injection aside as if to say, like, there's blood on my hands. I've made mistakes, and this is a decision I made. I need to stand by it, almost, is what that felt like to me. But there's tons of ways you can read that whole thing. It's very... very like meaningful writing, and I don't know, it's very, very good. It is the strongest writing the series has had so far.
And you know what? I'm kind of glad that Erwin dies in this season, because something just doesn't feel right about putting Erwin in like the really like morally dark world of Attack on Titan season 4. He feels too pure, you know.
He feels too pure, especially when he sacrifices a bunch of teenagers to the Beast Titan and says, "Hey, let's go kill ourselves." God, that fucking meme. That fucking meme is the best. The fucking Flock is like, yeah, join the Jaegerists. Not to like spoil, but yeah. But Flock is like, please join the Jaegerists. It's like, shut your bitch ass up. And then Erwin's like, let's go kill ourselves. Yes, sir. Glory to the. So yeah,
he's so real.
God, I love
realist Attack on Titan character of all
Erwin.
time.
Erwin is.
I think he's better than Eren now.
He is. He's the highlight of the whole series. He's the most like deep character I could think of in this entire stretch. And there's a lot of very
definition of having that dog, you know.
Yeah, he locked the fuck in. So. Yeah, so Armin gets to live, and then we get this little stretch that I thought was kind of boring, where they skip over them telling him everything that just happened, but then Armin recites everything that just happened back again, making me wonder why we even skipped it in the first place.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Anyway, Armin starts to have some kind of existential problems where he's like... I think what's interesting about it is that you can see Erwin believed in him from the get-go, and it's almost as if Erwin passed the torch to him.
Yeah.
And Armin does not know how to feel about that, because there's a lot of people who are very upset that he was the one who got to live. Flock, in particular, is super bitter about it. And we expand on that much later with this scene where, like, Flock is being a dick to Armin, and, like...
The sad thing is they really can't say like
they can't say he's wrong, but it's like he's super unfair to Armin because Armin didn't ask for this. He's dead. He didn't ask to be brought back, and so Armin has to deal with a lot of this like baggage and this weight on his shoulders of like, you are now replacing the goat, and now you have to be as good as he was. And he doesn't know if he can.
Him.
He doesn't know if he's got that dog in him like Erwin did.
He doesn't know if he's him.
But anyway, so this leads to this other stretch that I thought was really long and obnoxious, where they go through the town and look at all the wreckage, and slowly, ever so slowly. And I know it's trying to build anticipation, but come on, you've built enough over these past 3 seasons with all this hype and all this shit, like, to slowly walk to the basement. And then they make it to the basement, and, I guess we could talk about the basement now. What was in the basement?
Yeah, and this is kind of like a huge deal. So this is like the fire. This is what they've been searching for. This is it. I think there's kind of a funny moment where they're about to use the key that they've, alluded to this entire time on the door, and it doesn't work.
So Levi kicks it open.
Oh no, it's all wrong. And Levi just kicks it open.
And then it turns out that the key was not for the door. The key was actually for a drawer, which has some books in it that look like Amogus. And these books basically tell the story of everything that happened. And do you kind of want to go into that, what the story is with Eren's dad?
Yeah. I feel I'm pretty tired because we've talked about so much already, but this is like super important. So, I can give kind of the backstory. So, the first thing they see is a photograph, and apparently this is technology that they've never seen before.
Yeah,
and so he has to explain it to them. So
this part felt a little weird because like it didn't really click in my mind that photographs didn't exist in this universe up until now, at this point. And so when that happened, I was like,
"You never seen one."
Yeah, but like,
Wait! Didn't they? Wasn't there a picture of Connie's mom?
oh
Was
yeah,
that a
there was,
photograph
or
or a
maybe it was like a
painting?
painting. I don't know. Potential AOT plot hole. Anyway, so
Isayama exposed.
so basically the story is that, because I'm tired too, but this is the last topic. We're like right there. This and then the sea. So we're pretty much wrapping up here. But basically, this photograph is of Aaron's dad and his former wife, who was of royalty, and he. I'm losing my train of thought. And their son, their other son, who turns out to be Zeke Yeager. That's why he said that weird thing to Aaron earlier. And so it's revealed that in the past, like across the sea, there's these things called the Marlians. They're kind of like the Nazis, because there's, everybody inside the walls. They're the what?
Yeah, they totally like are.
So this part drove people insane. This was like super, super, super controversial. And I get why. Because basically these people who we've revealed are like titans, the scary monsters that eat people and have been killing each other and doing all this crazy shit. Well, they're a metaphor for the Jews. Because
so basically the people that we've understood to be humanity, they've thought that like humanity, all people are capable of becoming titans, but in reality their like race specifically is only capable of becoming titans, and the rest of the world hates them, and they've put them in camps.
They put them in camps. They put like fucking armbands on them to identify them as Eldians. And when they're bad,
it's really overt.
The ones that live in Marley, when they're bad, when they do no things, they line them up on this wall, as you saw happen to Ymir. They inject them with Titan serum, they kick them off the wall, and they turn into Titans, and then that's what led to all these Titans outside the walls. And we're not going to go super into that because that's more important in Season 4, but basically, Aaron's dad, Grisha, was a young kid, and he ventured outside of the internment zone. Basically, Eldians, when they live in Marley, are only secluded to specific areas, and they cannot leave without any sort of pass. They have to have, like, a permission pass or something, like a permission slip, basically, to be able to leave these areas. And so they do. He does with his little sister, because they want to go see the blimps, the little blimp planes. And they run into two Marleyan officers who are like, hey, you didn't take off your armbands, and it's good you didn't, but you guys broke the law, so we're gonna have to punish you.
We're gonna beat you.
And so Grisha is like, okay, beat me to death, but, don't touch my sister. Like, give me her punishment. I'll take twice the punishment. And so the two soldiers, I don't know the other one's name, but the main one's like Kruger. He's like, okay, I'll beat the shit out of you. And this part felt fucking weird, because with it being like a metaphor, it still has that charming, like, Attack on Titan writing. It has that charming Isayama writing of, like, he's like ready to go back home. He's like, wait, you came to see the blimps, didn't you? Sit down and watch. Where it's like humanizing this guy. And all I could think is like, these are fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
That felt like super weird. And of course, it turns out
I wanted to talk about that, the whole Jewish allegory. I think I'd rather talk about it more on the Season 4 podcast. But I will say I don't think it means to say anything directly about Jewish people.
Oh, of course not. He does a great job of justifying that in Season 4. But
it's hard to not see that.
It's
in this part. It's kind of like Zootopia syndrome.
Yeah. He's using the aesthetics of it to apply it to the real world, which is I get it, we've been talking about all these dark topics about the dark nature of humanity, and he wanted to use a real world example, and so he puts in a bit of a metaphor, but it's still a sensitive one.
if I'm being honest with you, I think bro just liked like World War II
Oh yeah, no,
aesthetics.
he named half the characters off of German. I just think it's just because I think Isayama's autistic and just super hyper fixated on World War II. But this caused some controversy. People said he was a pro-Japan imperialist. I don't know anything about that per se. I don't think he is. The story does seem a little bit anti-fascist, to be honest. But the metaphor is a little sloppy.
Yeah.
It's a little sloppy and in times a bit in poor taste. That's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'll say.
He's one of those authors that uses morally gray writing, and when it comes to the Nazis and the Jews, there is nothing morally gray about that. That's kind of the problem with all this, is he's taking this metaphor and turning it, using his morally gray angle, and you can't really apply that to the Holocaust or Nazis and Jews, because it was a very black and white, like, you know, oppressors taking on the oppressed.
Yeah, I think, basically, I feel the same way. I don't think it's trying to say anything about Nazi Germany and Jewish people. I think he just uses that as like the most immediate allegory, and that was definitely a mistake, like making it very clear that it was based specifically on, like, you know, Nazi Germany and Jewish people. If there wasn't that obvious historical parallel, I don't think anything about this would have been seen as like problematic.
And obviously
But
we got to
again,
take
I don't think he
we got to take it to
at its core though, it is like an anti-racist like story. So
we do need to take into account, like, Japan's different about that stuff, like about how they teach that stuff and whatnot. So who knows? I mean, they don't have. It's not like they have like the alt-right over there like we do, which is why it's such a sensitive thing here. But kind of to put in summary, because it's a very detailed backstory. It's more detailed than anything that was in part 1, but it's very good. Basically, Grisha. So the guy that took Grisha's sister back home didn't actually take her back home. Instead, he killed her. He fed her to his dogs. And which
is a really messed up thing to do. Like, even if you are racist, like, that's so messed up.
It is morbid. And honestly, out of every moment in Attack on Titan, there's like, I don't know, there's just this element to it that's like very like dark. Because that's basically when Grisha realizes, like, this is the game we're playing. This is the world we live in. And it's just cruelty for the sake of cruelty. And so Grisha, he starts a rebellion. He weds a woman of royalty, and they have a son. And then eventually the son rats them out to the Marlians due to things that aren't disclosed until season 4. So then... Years later, as an adult, Grisha, who has been living, like, he's been trying to prove that the Eldians, the stories that the Marlians spread about the Eldians aren't true, that Eldians are not, you know, oppressors, they're not evil, you know, we were born into this world, our lives mean something. So he's like, you know, Eldians matter, we matter, and actually, Our Lady Ymir, the original Eldian, she was a kind woman, and, you know, I can't go into all of it yet because you don't get to see fully what Grisha's problem is, but his son betrays him, and they get taken to the wall and lined up, and their fingers are cut, and then it turns out that the soldier that's about to... Huh?
I was gonna say, they turn his friends into Titans. They turn his wife into a Titan.
And it turns out his wife is the very one that ate his next wife, his following wife. Yeah. But again, that's something we'll go into season 4. But basically, Grisha, he finds out that the soldier that's about to inject him is actually Kruger, is the one that... watched the blimps with him when he was a kid.
With him, was Kruger.
Yeah, and then the one that's about to inject him is actually the guy that killed his sister. And what we get is this very... I didn't think much of it the first time I saw it, but upon rewatch, I find it fascinating. I find it very fascinating because he is just a cut and dry Nazi. That's pretty much what he is. And he's kind of psychotic. Like, he killed a little girl. He was totally content with watching a little girl get eaten alive. And what they do is they take the liberty of saying, hey, this guy's actually not a psychopath. Because he says very clearly, if this happened to my family, I would be heartbroken. Because Grisha asks him, like, why are you so cruel? And he's like, because I find it fascinating. I think we need to have a better understanding of death. And you guys are unfortunately just an extension of that. You know, if only you weren't born Eldian. But it's like it's actual justifications that fascists use when explaining why they kill. Like, in his case, it's very much like, yeah, you know what? My actions are cruel, but, you know, peace is an illusion, and I get a better understanding of death. I get, you know, I thought it was a very interesting speech just because of how real it sounded. And it really did feel like he did just take Nazi speeches and just used it here.
Yeah.
And
then Kruger comes in and saves the day. But, but only after all his friends died.
Yeah, he waits till all his friends are killed, turn to Titans. Then he turns into the Attack Titan, kills all the Marlians there, and obviously Grisha's pretty pissed about him not saving his friends. And then, you know, he's like, I am about to die, so I'm going to turn you into a Titan, you're going to eat me, and then you're going to save Armin and Eren and Mikasa. And he's like, what? And he's like, wait, who are those people? And so that explains how he got
nothing strange that's going to happen because of that.
That explains how Grisha got the Attack Titan power, and then later, of course, passed it on to Eren. And it's a very fascinating backstory, but again, there's not really much else we can say about it. I think it is a very meaningful, and like I said, that speech I found very, very interesting because it is just basically real nihilistic justifications for fascism and what fascists actually say. But that kind of just takes us to the end, which, upon seeing all of this, Eren, and he sees it like firsthand, they depart outside of the walls, they kill all of the Titans, kind of a time skip a little bit, or like a compilation of them. They invent like guillotines and shit for killing the Titans. They make it beyond the walls. There's like one tiny little Titan. It's like a scrawny little, it has like little baby arms, and it's just like scooting across the sand. And then
and it's just trying to crawl over to where the people are.
It can't even eat any of them. It's so wimpy. It was just, the Titans look so funny. That's been one thing that's been hard to take seriously about this. Anyway, they make it to the end. They reach the sea, and it's probably the closest thing to a beach episode this series has gotten, and it is so goddamn cute. Like, Armin picking up the seashell, and he's like in tears, like, oh my god, this is real. Mikasa, she's like nervous because she's like, what the fuck, what is it doing? And like Hanji, and you know, it's cute because they don't go ahead.
It's a great moment that like is turned like bittersweet when we turn to like Eren and like his reaction, which is, you know, he's not even excited at all he's doing is looking over at the ocean like, if we kill all those people out there, will we finally be free?
So yeah, everybody else thinks...
It's kind of sad, because the contrast between his reaction to everyone else is because he's seen all of this before because of his father's memories. So none of this is new to him.
It's not new to him, and also he basically begins to realize, like, the fight's not over. They're happy at the little victory that they just achieved, because this is like what we've been waiting for. But in Eren's case, he's looking beyond the sea. He sees that we're not done yet, and I've been spending all this time hating these Titans, fighting these Titans. Now all the Titans are dead, and it wasn't even the Titans that I was fighting in the first place. it was the Marleyans. And so he's looking beyond the sea and the rest of the world that have been oppressing them and realizing that the journey's not over. And that serves as the foundation.
That's the first hint of like what he's going to turn into later.
Yeah, and it's peak.
So good.
This was probably the longest part yet. Very, very exhausting. And when we do season 4, we're going to split it into 2 because...
Yeah, we're going to have to.
There's so much to say about season 4. Oh my god.
3.
Yeah. But overall, like, season 3 really goes above and beyond to impress. It really did. They killed it this season. And to think that season 4 is better than this is insane to me because... Looking back at season 3, it really is like solid overall.
Yeah, season 4 never manages to reach that moment of Erwin's final charge. I don't think it's even possible to create a better moment than that. But season 4 is consistent.
It comes close. It comes really close.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
like, it's that great the whole way through.
So,
season 3 had like this really epic peak.
So unless you got anything else to say, we're going to kind of wrap it up here and catch you guys in the next podcast.
Yeah, I don't have much to say, and also my computer's running low on battery.
Okay, so I'm going to cut off the recording.